Hello, welcome back to the Coat and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowland and I'm joined as ever by James Rushton. James, are you well, mate?
Yeah, buzzing. I guess you could have called it for 45 minutes. Probably the third historic Villa performance of the season. It's been a brilliant night despite the scoreline. I'm buzzing. Very happy for Aston Villa today.
We're all aware of the COVID restrictions that hit Aston Villa with having to play their youth team. No first team senior players available. Much like the podcast this evening, the senior figure of the podcast, Matt Kendrick, has bottled it basically.
Yeah.
He told us earlier today that his Wi-Fi wasn't working very well, but we both think that he just thought Villa were going to get battered tonight and didn't fancy the podcast. And then he's messaged us just as I was setting it up saying, "Oh, do you want me to jump on?" So I don't think it's dodgy Wi-Fi. I think he just wasn't didn't have any faith in the kids, old Matt Kendrick. But here we are. They did all right, didn't they, the kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, hope everyone who was in part of the COVID outbreak at Aston Villa in the first team and the first team staff is doing okay, and they're going to return
definitely watching, but
fit and healthy as possible. But yeah, I mean the thing is, Villa stepped up to that. I think 4-1 the scoreline. You'd probably imagine that would have been the half-time scoreline. The blunt truth, Liverpool playing a number of starters, including 2 or 3 of the best players in the entire world. Compared to last season when Villa's only starter was Douglas Luiz, I think, against them. So maybe Trezeguet against the under 23. Even in the cup. So it's a crazy one because even our under 23 team was missing. The Ramsey brothers, Chukwuemeka, Philogene Bidace. It was only really Louis Barry, Revan, Kessler Hayden, and a few other names that you recognise. It
wasn't even our strongest under 23s team.
Yeah, you had to play the kids of the kids.
Yeah,
double down. It was crazy, Dan. Amazing.
Tell you what's quite interesting is that obviously and this is just a technicality as much as anything, you say the kids, don't you? And it's the youth team. And in the halftime Facebook post that we did to say the scoreline, I put in brackets 18s or under 18s for Villa, almost just to prove a point. Villa were doing well here, and let's not forget this is the under 18s for people that aren't aware of what's going on. And I saw a comment say something like, "It doesn't matter that they're under 18s; it's still Aston Villa," and that kind of almost took me back a bit at half time to go, yeah, you know what, that is actually true. Yes, you have to define it as the kids because it's an unusual situation, but that was Aston Villa, and you can tell that they're learning the same style of football that is going through at the first team. Watching that, you could see things that the youth team do, that the first team do. They look good on the ball. They want to be in possession. They'll play on the counter-attack. They'll be quick. They want the ball. They want possession. They'll play it around. It's not like we've just watched a Sunday league game kind of style, do you know what I mean? That they're just hoofing it around and it's kids that aren't ready for football. Physically, yes, they're obviously a way away. Some of them are literally still children. We've had a lot of talk about they can't drive, they have to be dropped off by their parents, but they look small in comparison to the big Liverpool guys. Physically, obviously, that's something that will come with puberty as they get older. Like I said, some of these are still 16, 17
biology with Dan Rollinson.
Yeah, they will get physically bigger in the years to come. But technically, and from a football perspective, there's clearly some talent there, and the future looks bright for the Villa kids.
It's not just talent; it's the discipline, and the tactical knowledge of this team that you don't really see you haven't really seen in youth teams. It's just been one of these kids is brilliant. We might put him in the first team on the bench for a few games and sack him off. This is a highly structured organisation, Aston Villa, that are clearly bleeding down from the first team to the under 18s. Are a similar style of football. They want the same roles in the team. They want those young players to be ready to step up to that first team level and happy to roll in that team eventually. Not saying Kessler Hayden's going to suddenly be replacing Matty Cash or even Matt Target on at fullback, but that's an option. Like Villa have that option now. They should be comfortable with thinking if in an injury crisis, you could bring 2 or 3 of those in, and I would be confident after that performance. I know it's just one performance. After that performance, you'd be really confident about the future at Aston Villa because there's been golden generations that have gone to complete waste at this club. To be quite frank.
I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of recency bias that we're all just happy with what we've seen and going, this side might be great, but I'm sure we'll look back on it in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time and there'll be articles and podcast segments everywhere going, what happened to the team that played Liverpool in the FA Cup? And they'll all be like playing non-league or whatever. Louis Barry might still be doing something. He looks a very good player. There's a few comments asking about where does Louis Barry rank now in terms of the Villa strike force. And obviously, he's not going to come in and replace Ollie Watkins. However, for the goal, obviously it was on BT tonight, but if you were watching it on like dodgy stream, let's say, or a blurry GIF or whatever on social media, that pass and that finish, if you didn't know who that was and you just saw claret and blue, you wouldn't be ridiculed for thinking that was Grealish and Watkins combining. That's a very good goal. It's a great ball. I almost said Ollie Watkins, Lou Barry's run the length of the half pretty much, muscled off a Liverpool defender and slotted a perfect finish home.
He made a goal. He made Reece Williams look silly. Reece Williams twice the size of him. I know he's quite relatively young as well. Not you. Yeah. It's just how he took it and ran it past. I mean, Reece Williams 19, Louis Barry 17. You could see the physical difference in him. And Louis Barry's first start. Let's be honest. Callum Rose ball excellent. Louis Barry races through and finishes. And I think for me, he should be in that first team circulation. I mean, Wesley, Keenan Davis, and Ollie Watkins, different types of players. You might look at Davis and Wesley to be more involved in the link up and do their damage through, bringing others into action. Whereas Ollie Watkins is a bit of an all-rounder, as we've seen. He can do a lot of everything, especially his striking ability. But Louis Barry looks an out-and-out finisher, someone who can run off the back shoulder, probably that aspect of Ollie Watkins we've seen him the most. So for me, I feel like there's a bench place every few games there for him. I mean, I'll probably keep him grounded. That's what they want to do at Villa. They don't want to get him too confident too quickly. But after that performance, it seems like the sky is definitely the limit for a few of these players.
Somebody asked about the difference between Barry and Vasilev. I'd forgotten about Vasilev. He's gone out on loan, hasn't he, this season? I think. Is he with Burton Albion?
Yeah, he's played. He has actually played a few times for him, but it's been let's not forget context here. It's been a really tough season for Burton Albion. Manager sacking, Hasselbank's in there now. I think they had a COVID outbreak as well. I'm not too sure, and that really disrupted their season. So we can't compare it really because Vasilev was kicking on. He was playing first team football, but he would have probably been a part of that team had he stayed at Villa and not left on loan to play that. But we shouldn't really be making those comparisons because it's a bit tough, really, isn't it? We can't compare someone who's playing at a really struggling Burton team to someone who's played in a one-off FA Cup match where there was nothing to lose at all.
I'm going to make another comparison, and it's probably also unfair with someone that is still here with Keenan Davis. Now, you look at Keenan Davis and think, I think he's 23 in February, if I've done my research correctly. Louis Barry's 17. And you kind of think, well, Keenan Davis is still a youngster, but in football terms, when you're looking at a 17-year-old who's just scored a great goal against Liverpool, and yes, it's one goal in a one-off game, like you've mentioned, but he looks a talent. And you think, well, where will Louis Barry be at 23? Will he still be making big part appearances for Villa coming off the bench? Keenan Davis hasn't played enough football, or he hasn't played as much football as he should have. And with that goal today, and again, the comparison is probably unfair, and I don't want to use Louis Barry's positivity to make a negative point, but I feel like Keenan Davis wouldn't have run the length of the half and slotted that ball away in the same way that Louis Barry did. So I look at that and think, if you need a goal in the last 10 minutes, who would you rather bring off the bench for a like sub? Keenan Davis at 23 or Louis Barry at 17? Some people would still probably say Keenan Davis because he can bully defenders, and they're different players, but I still think that Louis Barry would be best served being in and around that first team a little bit more often. Keenan Davis is still getting bit part opportunities at 23. I feel like Louis Barry could be offered the same services at 17 and develop at a much quicker rate.
It's kind of a weird conversation, isn't it? Because you think, Keenan Davis should go out on loan and get first team football. Well, Louis Barry should definitely be getting some opportunities at League 2, League 1 level, even if it's conference, just playing men's football, because you can see the development that's in it. You can see not just a difference in quality between Liverpool and Aston Villa, even though it weren't there for like 60 minutes of the game. You could see the fitness and the physicality and Villa chasing that game, the entirety of it, the entire game. And when they were struck at the start, kind of getting their confidence, they lost all their energy because they're gone now. They were chasing the entire game. And the problem was they have to react to everything for about 40 minutes, and you can't, that's not going to happen. We can't expect anything more from them. So all in all, brilliant performance, but we can see the difference that men's football is. And look, Keenan Davis has been part of this first team setup. He's never getting starts. He's never getting major appearances. He's getting minutes trickling through here and there to kind of, pad his numbers a bit. Probably need to see him go out on loan as well and bring in someone. Wait for Wesley to come back, because we've got two young strikers, one a few more years younger than the other, both in dire need of first team football to progress. And also Davis.
Sorry, besides Lou Barry, who stood out for you? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here with the name. I can't even remember half the names and half the positions, to be honest. But is there anyone that stood out and you think, yeah, there's a decent player there that I wasn't? Because there's a few names, like you said, it wasn't even the four under 23 so, but you look at Kessler and Barry and names that you recognise. Is there any others that stood out and you thought, you know what, looks a half decent player there?
Yeah, I think Lamar Bogard seemed to cover every inch of grass, and he always seemed to be choosing different people to mark and harass throughout the game. Brad Young's little roulette in the box at the end, stunning confidence of that. I wonder what would have happened if he'd started. Like, where would what would he have seen? I don't know if he'd have been better than anyone, but he was just, come on, goals down in his own box against Liverpool. And he's pulling off moves like that. That's stunning confidence for a young player. Mungo Bridge, fantastic. I mean, tough start for him because he got caught out, but you could see the size difference and the speed difference and the the knowledge between him and Mane. It's not comparable. After that, he did the best he could in the circumstances and really gave a good display. But Akash Anodi as well in goal, the double save,
excellent.
Bit of luck. Because that could have bounced anywhere, but like he gets his hands to it, the reflex, and it goes away. Yeah. If he doesn't do anything, it's going in anyway. So fantastic. And Villa would have been in dire straits without him. The scoreline would have been much higher, and he was kind of that platform that gave Villa a lot of momentum. When they pulled off that double save and they got a bit of kind of confidence behind them, it looked like anything was possible. So, I know I'm missing out a few names here, but to a man, fantastic. Callum Rowe, Ben Crisene, brilliant.
It's hard to make too many snap judgments, isn't it, on one performance? Because you do think the experience is way different. The physicality is totally different. I think the title of this is boys against men or men against boys, but they acted in a way that you'd look to them tonight. I think I'm proud of the boys tonight. Like, it's just, I don't know whether it's because it's kids. I watch the first team as I'm getting older now, and you don't notice it when you're a kid, obviously, but like I'm 25 now, and players come into the first team at 21, 22, and you go, oh God, I'm older than first team footballers. So watching these boys tonight being 16, 17 and being dropped off by their parents, it's a weird scenario, and you do kind of feel this weird attachment of like, I'm proud of these footballers that just represent Aston Villa, and they're playing a one-off cup game, but you just can't help but feel proud of them. It's just a weird game. I don't think you can make too many judgments on what a player's going to be like based off one, even though I am going to hype up Lou Barry because it was a great finish, and there's little moments like that where you can go, well, there's clearly some individual quality there. The goalkeeper, the same, making good saves. That could happen in any game. It's just the almost the reaction to this game is what I wanted to talk about a little bit, because beforehand, I tweeted today going, just imagine if Villa actually get us to the fourth round tonight. I know it's against all the odds, and I think the odds for us to win was something like 50-1, even just to qualify or whatever to get through. It was in hindsight probably never going to happen, even though they did well for that first hour. But I got people tweeting me going, oh, it'll be a cricket score. If it's single figures, that'll be an achievement. Like, games don't get to 12-13-0. Like, it could happen, but it just doesn't happen. Like, if it gets to 5 or 6, we'll shut up shop a bit, or Liverpool will hopefully take their foot off the gas and go, they're kids. Like, let's not do that. I know it's professional sport and everything, but still, you know what I mean? So I never felt like it was going to be a 12, 13, 14-0 like people were saying, but I also didn't expect Villa to be as good as they were for that first hour. So that first half in particular, like, to go in at 1-1 against the Premier League champions at 16, 17, 18 years old is an incredible achievement just on its own.
Yeah.
What was your kind of reaction to it? Because there's some people thinking, well, if we get battered, it might be better just to have forfeited the game, because no kid's going to benefit from being beat 15-0 live on BT Sport. But in hindsight, that didn't happen. And that was probably a worthwhile experience for those kids tonight.
There must have been kind of some ruling that I don't know how the FA Cup works, but the rules are different to the Premier League, where the Premier League can postpone it because the schedule's a lot more flexible.
Yeah.
The FA Cup the FA was seemingly really unwilling to do that, which is why Villa had to field some kind of team today to kind of get it over with, rip the band, the plaster off almost, so to speak. But that wasn't the case. And, we speak about the names there, like we held in such high esteem. They've all made names for themselves. They're even like Dom Revan at the back, who's been, an academy fixture for seemingly so long. And you think as a 20-year-old centre-back, he might be a bit standoffish against the best players in the world, the best strike force in the world. The guy was throwing in hands and elbows to kind of get where he needed to go. He was really confident. So I think the scoreline, you can just look at the scoreline alone, 4-1, go, oh yeah, they did get played off the park. Liverpool took their time. If you weren't to look at the goals as a neutral, you'd be saying all sorts of things and judging this Villa team, but they made themselves so proud. And even if the score was 12-1 after that first half, whatever, Villa put a rocket up Liverpool for 45 minutes. So people can look at the scoreline in history. They didn't watch the match and say make whatever judgments they want, but it won't matter. It won't matter at all. It's a fantastic performance either way. So kind of glad the game got played now, I guess, because we can all sit here and be happy about it, and hopefully there's no kind of after effects of any of the outbreak at Villa Park spreading anywhere.
I think the way the goals went in is probably interesting, because when the first one goes out in after 3 minutes, you think, oh, here we go, this could be a terribly long night. And what happened with the other 3 goals afterwards being scored in quick succession, you think if something like that happens in the first 5 or 10 minutes, it's obviously game over from minute 1. The fact that they stuck in it at 1-0, got the equaliser just before half time and played a good hour, that's more than anyone could have asked for. Once the second one goes in to go 2-1, then the third one, and then the fourth one, all in the space of 5 minutes or something. I think that's just the nature of the game, and it being against kids, that the lack of concentration, the adrenaline goes. You concede the third goal, then you're open for the fourth. It's gone by that point. It doesn't matter. I just thought all the stuff. I mean, I've talked about it on Twitter a little bit tonight, so I'm at risk of repeating myself for anyone who follows me on Twitter. I just thought the way that it was all handled from the Liverpool side has annoyed me. I don't know. Like Jurgen Klopp just chatting absolute rubbish. Like, he spent all season moaning about fixture congestion. Now he can't rotate his players because he hasn't got the opportunity, because every game's important. And then he's playing against literally children tonight in some cases. And he starts Mane and Salah and Henderson and Fabinho. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. Like, yes, I'm not expecting Liverpool to go, you know what, you're playing the kids. Let's just be fair, we'll play our kids as well, because Liverpool have got every right to play whatever team they want and get through to the next round of the competition. I'm not bitter about the fact that Liverpool played a strong team. I'm just annoyed at the fact that you can't have it both ways, where you spend all season moaning about fixtures and substitution rules and then go and play a strong team against children against Villa. That doesn't make any sense. So things like that annoy me. Absolutely.
It is understandable. It's just, I think managers always say kind of things that get picked up that are kind of slightly, they want their way, don't they? Dean Smith doesn't want substitutions. Jurgen Klopp wants more substitutions to be added. So it's always going to be these comments that stick out, and especially when they make a selection such as that. But I felt like when Liverpool announced that selection, I kind of felt that's the team they would have picked anyway. They weren't going to change.
He said pre-game, and he was like, "Oh well, we found out late, and we can't change." And it's like, well, you can.
Yeah, I felt a bit odd about that, but I think if they were going to pick that team, they were going to pick that team. And I think if Villa, against Villa's kind of rotation, bit of first team players here and there, who knows? But I thought what was really odd actually was the relief. We were in that game for 60 minutes, and the Liverpool Twitter account was like, "Get in!" And I was like,
their Twitter account as well. That was weird. It was like really like everything in block capitals, like Mane goal. It's like, wait, you've gone 3-1.
You could sense the relief.
17-year-olds. Also, the substitutions they made, bringing on Thiago at half time and Shaqiri and Firmino, and it's like they had to make those changes to get back into the game. Like, it's not that Villa were on top and they were going to go on to win it an hour in or anything like that. But they were struggling to get through a Villa team made up of 17, 18 and 19-year-olds. So the fact they had to make those changes and bring on all that extra experience, yes, they're great players. And like I said, I'm not bitter about the fact that Liverpool have played a strong team, because they're entitled to do what they want. But they had to make those changes to combat how good those Villa kids were. And that's what I feel like we've got to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, if you're Bogard in the middle, you're looking at that team and thinking, I've got a job today to keep these players quiet. Whilst you're on the pitch, you pretty much did. You pretty much did your job to a better expectation than we all had. And that's, we're not doing down these players. But again, we mentioned all the stuff we brought before, the physicality, all sorts. Liverpool had to bring Firmino on, Thiago on to sort this game at Shaqiri on. I know Shaqiri's not a start for him, but you look at these players and there's a certain quality about them, right? That Villa just don't have. In that team, in the team playing, it was just a lot of potential. A kid who'd come from Baggies to Barcelona to Villa. There was nothing in this Villa team and to suggest any kind of a threat. But you look at the comments from Louis Barry after the game. He said when he got the ball, he knew it was going in. That's the confidence they were playing with against world-class players, and if they didn't, drop to fatigue, and if they didn't need to kind of try and re-energize themselves throughout the match, who knows what could have happened. I don't think we would have won, but we could have given them another scare. I think Liverpool are always going to win, but we could have given them another real fright. And that's the best you can ask for.
It's a shame it didn't go straight to penalties as well, because you do think if we'd have held on to that and it goes straight to penalties, then obviously anything happens at that point. There's a few comments coming through. I just want to quickly read along the lines we were just saying. Chris Brown said it's hilarious, really, bringing on players like Thiago at half time. He changed the game. Rafael Spranowski says Thiago bossed its day, totally changed the game. Declan says it took a World Cup winning, Champions League winning, multiple title winning midfielder in Thiago to change the game, show the character that was required against our team tonight, and exactly why I'm so proud of them. I guess the next stage is just to quickly wrap up tonight, because it's a weird one, isn't it? We're not going to talk about match specifics about things that happen, because I don't think that's as relevant as analysing a Premier League game. It's essentially a throwaway cup game against kids that will probably not play again for a long time, unless we need to call upon them again if the COVID outbreak lasts longer for Villa than we think. So what are the next steps? We've got the Spurs on Wednesday, and I think Everton on Saturday, Tuesday. I can't remember when it is. I don't know what the fixtures are, but it's Spurs and Everton the next two in that 10 or 12 day isolation period, or whatever it is. So what happens next? Does Spurs get rearranged? Is that up to the Premier League to decide? Because also, just before you answer that, I quite liked that Villa probably could have kicked up a bit more of a fuss today and demanded things, and we want this and we want that and we want that. And it's like, I think there was one tweet or one club statement before saying Aston Villa and the FA are trying to come to an agreement on getting the game to go ahead. Nothing said. We'll play the game. We'll do what we have to do. If we have to play kids, that's what we'll do. We'll go quietly, kind of thing. I like that. I feel like that's a classy move from Villa to just go, yeah, we're missing our whole first team. We've been disrupted all week. The first team coaches won't even be there. We're going to struggle. We're probably going to lose, but we'll just get on with it. I quite like that. I don't know whether that's just me being claret and blue tinted spectacles on, but I like stuff like that, because we could have moaned about it and said, do this, do that. And I think that would have been the opposite of what Villa are like in terms of class. So what happens next? Do they now kick up a fuss about the Premier League, or is the Premier League easy to rearrange? Villa are going to be maybe 2 games behind, plus the 2 they've already got. Do they play on? Do some of the first team come back if their isolation period finishes earlier than others and we fill it with some of the under-23s against Spurs? Is that doable? Or is this something that we'll be looking at and going, well, Villa won't play now for 10 to 12 days?
They won't play for 10 to 12 days. I can't really see the Spurs game going ahead with the talk of the outbreak. I mean, we shouldn't speculate with any of this because it is players' health and it is the disease that has caused the pandemic. And it was pretty touchy. It was pretty touchy subject about his game going ahead after Villa's outbreak, which has been described as one of the worst outbreaks in the Premier League. Whether that's true, I don't know. But if it's that bad an outbreak, I don't think this game for any reason can go ahead, because if it goes ahead and there's false negative tests or anything, and a player plays and then gives that to Spurs, you're in real problems. And you can't.
Pandemic spreads, isn't it?
It's tough. These players ain't going to be coming back anytime soon. The games are going to be delayed, as they were for other teams who had COVID outbreaks. I think you look at Fulham and Man City, who had to push games back. I can't see that it's not the case in the FA Cup, because the schedule's different, and I think contractually games have to be played by a certain point just to get it done with and the competition moving. And they've already made circumstances to make it a shorter competition this season anyway, due to the schedule. So I think it was either play your kids or forfeit it, and I don't think Villa didn't want to forfeit it, so they've played those. I
hope that carries on for the rest of the tournament though, because as much as Villa did handle it with class, if Man United in the quarter-final get hit with COVID and they get theirs delayed, I'd be looking at that going, how come it was fair for them in the FA Cup but not for Villa to move things around? But that's a point that may never even happen. I suppose it's different for the Premier League. Someone in the comments just said you can't really play your kids in the Premier League. You would argue if you want to take the FA Cup seriously, though, you shouldn't really be playing your kids either. So in theory, you could play your kids in the Premier League, but because we're doing so well in the league this year, Villa probably won't want to play that with a depleted squad again. And I think that why it's a worse outbreak than some of the others is because it's the whole first team bubble, isn't it? It's not like a few players and everyone else is tested negative and that's it. It's basically the whole first team is struggling with it. And as you said, the medical side of it is something that we don't even really think about with football, and that's the main thing. It's a disease. Obviously, it's a virus. I think there's a difference actually between a disease and a virus before some doctor flags me in the comments. But we don't think the medical side of it for some reason. We just think, oh, what games are going to be missing? What player are we missing? But there'll be some kind of medical effects for the players as well, whoever got it in the first team. We don't know who it is, obviously, because of patient confidentiality and stuff. I think it's up to the players for themselves to say, oh, I'm the one who was hit with it. But we don't know what the effects will be after the games that we miss as well. Yes, we might miss Spurs, we might miss Everton, and that's rearranged fixtures, and that's annoying. But what happens to the players' bodies after having COVID? What will that be like? Is this going to kind of derail the season because they're not as fit as they were before? Is this going to be 6 weeks before we see Villa playing well again? Like, there's more effects to COVID than, oh no, Villa are going to miss a game of football.
Like, I'm obviously no doctor here, so I'm not going to try and speak. We're both not doctors. There's probably not even a doctor in the comment section to come in and jump in and help us out. But there have been specific.
There's a doctor on board. We need to there's a doctor in the Facebook comments.
There has been specific concerns about some players who return. The isolation period's clear. They're sending back negative tests. Just sometimes some of them don't have the same fitness level for a while. Sometimes it knocks it. Did they get a specific case that hits them hard? Sometimes if they're asymptomatic, they might develop a different condition down the line. I think that was researched in college football in the States about players who have tested positive, shown no symptoms, and a small, tiny minority. There can be a different type of heart rate or something like that. So it is a bit of a concern, obviously, because of what's going on in the world. Obviously, the health of the players is, and the staff, of course, is an absolute priority. So, yeah, can't see this game going ahead. But, yeah, it could be a bit of a damaging thing. But, look, we've seen teams also kind of not shrug it off, but kind of return to a similar level to where they left off. So I wouldn't make any kind of speculation points at the moment about it.
And then on the flip side of that, there's a few people in the comments talking about Newcastle saying there's players that are still out with it now or suffering from the effects of it. In Robinson, I don't know whether this is true. It says that St. Maximin still can't run to the end of his road because he's so unfit still after having it. I know that he's obviously been missing since he's had it.
It's going to affect everyone differently.
All the doctors are advising the world, but only on Facebook Live. Imagine that. But yeah, it affects everybody differently. If you're asymptomatic, you might not feel any effects from it, like post effects from it either. If you've seriously got a bad lung disease, virus, infection, whatever word you want to go for, that could have a serious effect on your fitness for a long time, not just a 2-week isolation period and a bit of running and then you'll be okay again. That could be months of ill health. So, like you said, the health of the footballers and the staff is paramount. What that means for Aston Villa, the football club, and our push for a Premier League title is two very different things. And we don't want to sit here and speculate, and I'm not going to do it for much longer. We did think about doing an episode about COVID with a medical expert at some point. I don't know when that will be, and we need to find someone who's more clued up than we are. But because it's a virus that's new still, no one knows the long-term effects. No one knows what it's like the year after you've had COVID because it's not been around that long to have that data anyway. So, like I said, we don't want to speculate too much. We just want Villa to come back healthy, fit, firing, and slot back straight into Premier League football as soon as possible. If that can happen, obviously remains to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we shouldn't, if we get news about things, we shouldn't speculate about who's going to return when and all sorts like that, because even if you're like asymptomatic, it can still have effects on your fitness level anyway, because it is something that attacks a lot of parts of your body, not just one part. And so we'll have to look into it. We'll have to get an expert on here to speak about it, because it is something that is affecting Aston Villa now. It's a problem in our real world, in the world that and even the world we want to jump out of, because we don't want to listen to the real world. It's concerning all of that now.
That's the thing. When you asked me about, well, not asked me, but suggested doing an episode about COVID, I want this podcast to be an escapism from real life. This is for football talking. It's obviously for nonsense as well, but this is where we can come and talk about Villa for half an hour with fans and kind of switch off from the rest of the world. Now COVID is getting into Aston Villa. Obviously, it's been in football since the start, but now it's actually affecting players physically. We can't not talk about it and go, oh, well, let's just talk about something else, because this is a new story that's happening with Villa, and it is a developing story and will continue to develop for the next 10, 12 days. But we don't know enough about it to say, oh, this is what's going to happen, or this is what's going to happen. So we'll wait and see. I think that probably just about brings us to a close for tonight's episode. Not as jovial as usual. The game we've seen tonight had plenty of positives, and the Villa kids, or the Aston Villa youth team, did very, very well. And there's some bright futures to be had there, I think. But obviously, it comes with serious undertones that Aston Villa have been hit with a serious coronavirus outbreak. And what happens in the next couple of weeks, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, on a positive note, we were reminded once again what it means to be Villa and score that first goal at a club you love. Louis Barry's face said it also.
Can you imagine what that goal would have been like inside the stadium tonight? That pass, and then having him run the whole length of the Liverpool half and slotting it away. Can you imagine the noise? Oh.
Don't worry, I think it makes you sad, don't it?
I know, I miss it. But yeah, we'll get out of here before we get too miserable. Thanks everyone who joined us live on Facebook this evening. Thanks for everyone who watched this podcast day after it came out. Please head over and leave us some reviews on iTunes. You can also leave comments on YouTube as well. Get involved in the conversation and the debate. There's a lot of conversation going on in the Facebook live comments at the moment. I think there's some Blues fans or Liverpool fans in here actually saying that we're talking nonsense, which, yeah, fair. I don't care. Whatever. I just don't care. We'll be back again when things develop, I guess. I was going to say we'll be back after Spurs, but if Spurs doesn't happen, then we won't be. So we'll be in and around things to speak about stuff. It's as generic as I can be. Follow us on social media, follow us on Twitter, follow all our reports over on Birmingham Live. Stay tuned to the Carlton Blue feeds because stuff will be shared at some point. We just can't say when yet because we don't know when Villa are going to play. So I'm going to get out of here. There's lots of Up the Villas coming in the comments. Thanks everyone who tuned